What's up, guys? Welcome to LearntoCode.tech. Today we'll be discussing the daily method series, and today's method is JavaScript's findIndex. Okay, so let's get started with the description. What exactly is the findIndex method? What is it? What does it do? And what do we use it for? Well, the findIndex method is actually a member of the array prototype, so it can only be used on an instance of an array. The purpose of the findIndex method is very similar to a method that we've discussed before, which is the find method. And the find method essentially takes a callback function as the first parameter, and it iterates over each element of the array in which it is invoked on, applying the conditional to each element to evaluate if there's a match with the criteria set in the conditional. If there is, then we'll return that element. In the case of findIndex, we want the index, the position of that element. So that's essentially how you would use the findIndex method. One thing to take note of is that if you don't actually find the element that actually matches your criteria, then the return value is going to be -1. So that's something that's important to keep in mind. And so with that being said, let's take a look at an example. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. We have an array of movie objects. Each object contains 3 properties: the title property, genre, as well as year released. We want to be able to find an element within this array of objects that has a particular title, and we want to get the position of that element within the array. So I've already got started. I set up a function here called findIndexByTitle, and it essentially takes a title. It's going to use the find method here. We'll add findIndex. It's going to invoke the findIndex method on the movies array, and it's going to use this callback to evaluate and apply the conditional to each element within the movies array, as we discussed earlier. Now, if there is an element that has the title that we pass to this function, then we're going to get the position, not the element. The find method would return you the element, but with the findIndex method, we're going to get back the position. So if we put it as our title here and ran this conditional, we would hope that we would get this it here, this first element, right? And so we would hope that we would get an index value of 0. So let's actually log out some of this data to see what we actually get. So findIndexByTitle, and we're gonna pass it the title Iron Fist. So let's do that to make it easier or more clear. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and pass that as a parameter to our function. Oops, movie title. Okay, let's save that, and let's actually go ahead and run that in the console. Boom, we get 9. So let's start from the top here and see if that is in fact the proper value. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there you have it. We've successfully counted 10 elements beginning from a base of 0 in our movies object array. But we're not exactly done. There is another example that we should take a look at. What if we had another movie title, right? The movie title is also called Iron Fist. It's at another position in the array. And let's say it was an earlier model or earlier version of the movie released in, who knows, 1990. Okay. What element do you think is going to get returned? Or rather, what index value do you think will be returned when we call this function again? Well, let's give it a shot. Let's go ahead and save it. We'll run it again. And this time we get the index value of 4. Okay, so let's run this again from the top. Beginning from base 0, we're going to count down to the next Iron Fist. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to match our solution here, And that is that, in fact, the first iron fist that meets the criteria that we passed in the function find index by title. If you remember what I told you from the beginning, the find index method is very similar to the find method in that it's going to find the first element that meets the criteria set in the conditional, and it's going to return either, in the case of the find method, the first element. However, we're more interested in the position that is the index value, and so we get 4. If we remove that, we'll get 9. And so that's how you successfully use the find index method in JavaScript.